Good morning, guys. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you had a great weekend playing lots of City of Heroes and other games with your friends. Maybe jumping in on some of those Black Friday sales. I had several requests when I did the last news video, to share the screen with the news rather than gameplay footage of at the time. So I'm going to try this instead. And you guys can let me know whether you prefer seeing the notes that I'm looking over instead of gameplay footage, and let me know if this works for you. What I'm going to be going over here is very similar to what I did a couple of weeks ago when I went over these almost exact same notes with the beta build. This is now live. I guess I don't keep up very well with the news because this has actually been live for just a little bit now, and I'm just now getting around to covering it. But you guys, you guys can let me know what you think. So let's go over what's new in issue 28 Legacy, page 3, and whatnot. So first off, the big news here is that we've got expanded +5 and incarnate +6 and 7 difficulty options. If you and your friends were looking for some hot and sweaty actions and ways to really bump up the difficulty on some of the task force you're doing, you now have some more options to play around with. I personally will not be touching these with a 10-foot pole. I think the most I've done on one of my characters so far is maybe a +3. And yeah, +6 or 7, definitely way out of my reach. Even +5, I don't think I'll get to in this lifetime. I'm playing too many alts. But for those of you who are looking forward to more challenge, there you go. We have a new task force, the Callisti Wharf Task Force. We'll look over that in just a minute. The Labyrinth Fog expansion and repeatable rank-shifted missions is now live. I would like to hear if someone's doing this on a regular basis, because none of the friend circles I run in are doing the Labyrinth. And again, we'll talk more about that as we go down through the details. And the new story arc as well. We're going to discuss that. We have a new power set with Sonic Melee. We have big adjustments to Mastermind, which I really do need to test out. And we have a really awesome badge progress tracker. So that's very awesome. And character info window customization. So let's go through these. So if you haven't noticed, and I just picked up on this a couple of weeks ago, the difficulty setting is now up where you go to check your current mission. It used to be down hidden in the chat, and it was my favorite thing to explain to new people of how they could adjust the mission difficulty. But it's now up here in the top, and you can set your difficulty, here for your team size and things like that. And those are fun to play around with when you're soloing, to see exactly what your character can handle. But now you will find that there is a +6, 5, 6, and 7 on there, and whatever have you. And as the notes mentioned, the +6 and 7 will only show up when you're on incarnate content, such as Dark Astoria or Chimeriora. And you're doing those incarnate repeatables, which I love doing the Dark Astoria incarnate repeatables and whatnot. Otherwise, it's going to default to +5. And if you haven't noticed this on an incarnate character, you can usually get better pluses on that incarnate character in Dark Astoria than you could maybe on a regular mission somewhere else, because your incarnate powers may not be working on other missions. But when they're kicking in, you can definitely feel the difference. So you might want to bump that up to a higher difficulty level. So kind of keep that. It kind of goes over some details. You can take a look at this on when those difficulties show up. So if for some reason they're not showing up for you and you're feeling a little frustrated, make sure you read over those details and the such. Now, existing content not impacted by the difficulty changes does include Incarnate Trials, LFG Trials, Mothership Raids, and the Labyrinth of Fog, because it's its own special beast. So kind of keep that in mind. You're not going to see those there. We have a new task force, the Golden Rule. Marigold, Zoe's, Langston's task force is at level 40 to 50. And I've heard some pretty good things about this. I have not had the opportunity to do this myself, partly because I hardly ever run with any big groups. But if you've done this one, let us know. I've heard good things from my friends who have run it. It's got some very interesting things going on, and the detailed information as far as where you can find Marigold, there's a thumbtack right there. She is in Callisti Wharf, and this is a co-op mission, so you are going to be able to bring your red and blue characters and have fun doing this one together. New story arc, Death Resurrected Wiley Galloway. This is a level 40 to 50. Wiley Galloway is an eccentric archivist for the Midnighters, who is highly concerned about the numerous relics being traded throughout Callisti Wharf. When he sends you to break up the Warrior's Relic auction, you discover the skulls are strangely invested in buying magical weapons. Why are the skulls so interested in these artifacts, when before they never seemed to have much to do with trade? And how did the skulls gain so much power in the first place? Now, you notice that both of these are around Callisti Wharf, and that's because they recently added mobs to Callisti Wharf, so it's a lot more lively than it used to be. I've done this story arc, and because I do love my flashbacks, and you will find that there are plenty of mobs around there for you to arrest, and there's a couple, I think when you're doing the story arc, there's 2 hunts, I believe, where you're going to go out and find warriors or whatever and go and arrest them with your radiation and fire powers and your shotguns and everything. So, yeah. But it is a fun one. And in fact, I want to show some footage. I'll probably do a longer Let's Play and just throw that up on YouTube. I know a lot of people won't have time to watch through it. But if you get the opportunity, do check it out because it will have, I'll have the, one of the maps is a new office setting that I've never seen before. Now, maybe it's always been in the game and I've been playing for years and just never run into this tile set, or it's a brand new tile set, if that's what we call it. But it's big open offices with like floors with windows in them. Feels a lot more open than the normal claustrophobic offices that we tend to get. Not that those are too claustrophobic, they're a lot better than the caves, but these are wide open and they're beautiful. They look very modernized. I guess that's another way. They look like modern offices, and it was a lot of fun to play that. And I hope I see a lot more flashbacks in using those mazes because it was a lot of fun. The Labyrinth of Fog has been extended. I don't know, again, I don't know how much detail I should go into this because I don't know how many of you guys are doing a lot of Labyrinth of Fog. But they have really put in a lot of work into this. This is clearly a new in-game system. One of the big questions I always get is, what is the end game in City of Heroes? And really, there isn't really like a set progression end game type of thing. But there is a ton of activities for you to do. For me, it is doing the flashbacks. There's a lot of flashbacks that open up at 50, and for other people, it's doing some of the level 50 task force or doing some of the big monsters and getting more money, more drops, whatever it may be. Well, the fog has its own mechanics. And this goes over the details of some of the changes and additions they have made, including repeatable quests, including new badges, including rewards for currency. There's a new currency that drops here, and so there's a whole bunch of different things going on. So I don't want to go over all of these because it'll make the video about 20 minutes longer. But you're going to find new NPCs. There's a start vendor there. That have been added to help make playing there more convenient, more quality of life. But there is interestingly enough, and I found this part interesting right here, the currency drops. There's a thing called Nightmare Obols, and that's a currency, and you get plenty of obols depending on who you defeat. They drop off of there, and then you can take them and you can buy different things. You can buy buffs. You can buy inspirations in bulks. You can convert them to reward merits, which we do love our reward merits. I'm a big fan of reward merits. You've got costume parts. You've got special summons, an Oathsworth Gladiator for 200 obols, so it must be pretty powerful. And there is a cool mini dealer of death vanity pet, which I just found the other day. That fairy who's in Ouroboros sells a very nice vanity pet. I think it's Lord Recluse for something like 2,000 merit rewards. So it's like a cool way out there goal. That's kind of this mini dealer of death as well for 10,000 obols. You're going to be working on that for some time. I love long-reaching goals like this. I'm not a badger myself because I don't, unless it's a badger that gives me some sort of benefit like the accolades. For the most part, I ignore most badges. I don't even look at them. But if you tell me, hey, earn 10,000 currency and you could buy this cute little vanity pet, that sounds awesome. So I wish I did this, but this is really made for big, large groups, and I play in small groups or by myself most of the time. So sadly, not for me. But who knows what the future will hold. Anyways, this stuff looks very, very interesting. There's a lot of stuff to do in here. So go and check it out if you're into the Labyrinth. And leave your comments below if you've done this, if you have thoughts on these additions. I would love to hear them. I read through every single comment, and I respond to almost every single comment. So I would love to hear from you. Now, let's go on. We have some general changes to task. And one of the big ones for me is that in Ouroboros, the incarnate missions that allow now +3 incarnate shifts are now in their own bucket in Ouroboros. So that is really, really cool. That makes it very easy for you to go through to Ouroboros, and I can show it to you on the stream, but in fact, I'll do that on the stream that I do with the new task force, but or with the new flashback, I mean. But it is separated out, much easier to see those now, so that's really, really cool. There's some other minor things, some name changes and stuff to make things a little bit easier to see. Remove the check on Lady Grey Task Force. We removed the check on the final mission that was misbehaving, and we're removing the Hamadan Essence power. This is one of those things. I don't do a lot of task force, but this sounds like it's very important. And it might make those a little bit easier to do with small groups if you don't have certain checks. But let me know, those of you who know Lady Grey inside and out, exactly what does this mean? Please tell me in the comments. In Citadel Task Force, the 3 council missions in Independence Port are now assigned to doors that are closer to the tram. That's a nice quality of life. And we fixed a bug right there. Badges have been getting a lot of love lately. If you are a badger, there's some new ones here. Interestingly enough, if you're doing that maze that we were talking about, there looks like there is a new Labyrinth of Fog plus max endurance badge, or accolade, I should say. So it looks like it works in Labyrinth of Fog only, but a way for you to get max endurance there. And you get that by getting the Maze Breaker accolade, which is obtained by getting the Tested by Combat and Chromatic Combatant badges. So again, that looks very interesting. There's a new badge in here for doing the Marigold Zoe Langston Task Force that has just been added. And then there is this Psychopomp one for doing Wiley Galloway's story arc, which I need to see if my character who did it has that badge. It does look pretty cool. That looks like a nice little image. Both of these look like great images here. Anyways, the big thing with badges is that there is now a badge tracker, and you'll be able to, basically the way you do with powers, where you're able to track those and show those on the screen. People ask me all the time, how did you get your powers? How did you get your buffs? Like what's your defense and your offensive buff? How do you get that to show? I've got a video doing that in the works, but there's now, you can track your badges. So that's really, really cool. You can see your progress on them and have them up on the screen. That is huge. Thank you guys. You devs are just awesome. That is a very nice quality of life addition and whatever have you. Let's see here. It looks like you can pin selected badge art to your personal info window, as you can kind of see here. So that is really, really cool. I think that's very nice to change and work on your profile. Let's see here. We've done a little tweaking with costumes. There's some new vanity pet rewards, or maybe tweaks to them right there. You can take a look at that. These are all minor tweaks for the most part. I'm going to just kind of skim over those, but we've done some tweaking to the enemies and whatever have you. Looks like there might be a little bit of buffing going on with some of these bad guys, so they can push back a little bit harder in some of these things. In quality of life improvements in the zones, I noticed that Kings Row now has a zone gate leading to Perez Park added to the northeast corner of the zone. Like, Perez Park is one of those things because there's not a direct transport to it, that on a new character I'm always going, how do I get to Perez Park? Oh, let me just teleport to Atlas and fly over there. But if you happen to be Kings Row, there's a little bit of a shortcut there. And the Galaxy City connecting tunnel has been restored, secure by the Vanguard. Some familiar-looking heroes fight to ensure the danger brewing in Galaxy City won't leak out into the streets of Kings Row. So that's kind of interesting, whatever that means. We have a Perez Park destination there in the freeway sign near the Kings Row exit. So you got one there in Kings Row. And let's see here. We fixed the freeway sign. Okay, well, we'll skip over that one. Let's see here. The Langston Court Factory has received numerous visual enhancements and updates and can now be entered. Added 3 new submarine doors to the zone for future content purposes. Where they're really focusing on Callisti Wharf, and that is super, super exciting. And whatnot. So thank you, devs. You're just knocking it out of the park. We got some new things for you guys who are some tweaks there for those of you who are into supergroup pieces. Probably the thing that jumped out at me was adding a base editor help and search keywords. That's desperately needed. Doing supergroup base thingy is one of the more difficult things to dive into and requires looking up old YouTube videos on it. I've only done some base stuff. I might do a video on it in the future. It's on my bucket list of things to do. Let's see here. I'm going to skip over that. All right, big melee power set. So we've got a new melee power set in Sonic Melee. This is something that can give your enemies migraines, inflicts migraines, debuffing their resistances to multiple debuffs and holding foes for a short hold. Now this can be dramatically increased by using Sound Booster. With the ability to attune your frequency to your targets, your single target attacks can trigger powerful reverberating damage over time, helping you to quickly bring enemies to their knees. This one has not been as well received. Some of my friends who've tried it out thinks it feels a little undertuned. I think, now I've not really tried it. I really should, just to make a video on it. But I was going to do it on the test server and never got around to it. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the flavor. For me, making tunes most of the time, I'm making tunes for flavor reasons. And Melee Sonic, I've never seen like a superhero who's had Sonic powers but could only do them really close. So obviously with slashing powers like Wolverine's claws, that makes sense. With you take a look at your big Sonic, characters like Banshee from the X-Men or Black Canary, and their Sonic powers are always medium, range, long range. They're just never like, oh, it's only a melee range. So I don't know if I have a character concept that is somehow doing these very close range melee attacks. So I don't know if I'm ever going to really get around to making this, just because I have too many other character concepts in my mind that I can do with the powers that are there. The big adjustment to mastermind powers, right? This is big. I've gotten lots of comments about people kind of looking forward to this, but I think there's a little bit of, is it really going to work type of going on. So mastermind summon powers no longer ignore recharge buffs. They still don't accept recharge enhancements. Henchmen still ignore recharge buffs, okay? I don't know if I much care about that. I don't really worry about my summoning powers having quick recharge. 40% of your set bonuses now applies to henchmen that are within range of your supremacy, right? Which is that range around you, I guess, that they have to stay in to get buffed. Mastermind henchmen now spawn even level to you. So normally I think they would spawn one level lower than you, which if you're one level lower than your enemy, there's all kinds of inherent penalties that would normally apply to make it tougher for that person who's -1 to beat somebody who's +1. But now they're going to spawn at your level, which is going to make your minions hit harder and make them more resistant just inherently. Then on top of that, 40% of your set bonuses are now going to apply to them. That means all your set bonuses, right? Normally, again, I could be wrong on this, but my understanding was set bonuses never applied to. You had to have like specific henchman bonuses. And there's sets out there that says it does this for your henchmen that I would buy on my masterminds. Henchman modifiers and stat values have been adjusted in order of keeping them about as effective as before on +2 encounters. All right. So we're trying to keep they're trying to keep henchmen on equal footing. So if you're playing against +2s, you shouldn't feel much of a change is what they're saying. Tier 1 and Tier 2 henchman proc damage modifiers have been adjusted. Pardon me. Tier 1 and Tier 2 henchmen have been adjusted to keep them as about effective as before +3 foes. Tier 1 and 2 henchmen should be expected to have lower DPS on even level and +1s, about the same on +2s, and perform much better on +3 and higher. And this is pretty interesting because my experience, and it has been limited compared to some of you, has definitely been that my mastermind struggles against pluses that are too high, right? On lower pluses, I have no issue at all, of course, and I just cream past everything. So this is made to level some of that playing field out. And on paper, I'm happy about this. I need to see how it works out, but that sounds pretty good. Henchmen should be somewhat more survival as they will hit less often. They will be hit less often and for less damage. Yeah, against a +3 or boss or whatever you want to call it, a red, purple, whatever, those things, my poor minion, my robots would just melt. They would just melt. It's like a hot knife through butter. It just became a contest of how fast I could resummon them. So again, this sounds great to me personally on paper. And I'm okay with them maybe suffering a bit more against the lower level mobs, along the way, the trash mobs along the way, if I get better results against bosses. Because that's usually where I see the difference. When I'm questing overall. Supremacy now grants a bonus to lower tier 1s and 2 henchmen regardless of distance. So that is very interesting. And there's been some other adjustments here and some minor, some other notes in terms of how they did. They apparently did a lot to Beast Mastery and Demons. I'm looking like there's a ton of notes for you guys. I don't really have any of those. I'm working on, I think it's either Beast Mastery or a Demons build, but I haven't gotten to pulling the trigger on it. And then I get down to robotics, and all I see is equip and upgrade robot no longer has a recharge. That's because robots are the perfect minions, boys and girls. Argue with me down in the comments below. Okay, no, stop it, Phil. Bad. But yeah, there's some very interesting notes here. If you're a mastermind, let me know what you think about these. And that's pretty much it for the big news. So let me know what you think about all these changes in the comments below. Let me know if you want this to be longer, shorter, or if you want to see more gameplay, or if you like me showing the notes like this. Let me know what you think. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day. God bless you.